Yo, what is up, world? How you doing? It's your boy Kellz, aka Special K, back again with another episode of the Culture Marauders podcast, the Culture Marauders podcast. It is Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, and I am rocking steady in week 8 of quarantine. I got my Moscow mule that my beautiful wife has made for me, and I'm ready to get down on this next episode. So, once again, like I said, this is the Culture Marauders podcast. This is episode 21. And it is powered by Poddex, the Culture Marauders podcast. We are the show that marauds on all culture and delivers the good to the masses, aka you, the listeners and the viewers out there. So thank you for tuning in and thank you for listening. And like I said, it's brought to you by our great sponsor, Poddex. So Poddex, this is the products that I've been talking about for the last few weeks, last few episodes. And these are great tools for podcasters and content creators to have more meaningful conversations and create better content. The interview deck contains unique conversation starting questions that are non-industry specific. These questions can be used, for any type of content creation, such as like these StreamYard videos that I'm doing here for you, any other type of podcast, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, anything that you can think of. And they're just fun just to sit there and throw, some ideas and stuff back and forth. So go check them out. Go on www.poddex.com and, pick out your items, pick out the good stuff, throw it in the cart. And then, your boy Kellz is going to go ahead and hook you up with that Poddex VIP code. And that is Marauder1, MARAUDER with the number 1, all one word, all together. And that's good enough to get you 10% off. So check out Poddex and get them decks. I mean, I got a lot of folks out there who are, creating and looking at all these, different items that they have from the What the Heck deck and also the interview decks out there. And then Would You Rather, my favorite in particular is right here. It's the What the Heck deck. I really like this one. It's different. It's a hell of a conversation starter and kind of let you get to know some people. And, I'm going to go ahead and rock with some of these decks real quick. So with this, what up, Nolan? That's the homie Nolan Lee out there. Beerlosophy Podcast. Check him out. He's in South Korea rocking with us. He's a good friend of mine, and he's supporting the show. Appreciate you, homie. So, like I was saying with the pod decks, right? So I'm mixing them up. I like to keep it, pretty random. I don't know what's happening. So here it is. First one off the top. Question is, would you ever pick up a hitchhiker? 100%. You know what? I can't say that I wouldn't. I've helped people. I like to think of hitchhikers as people that need help, right? So I've helped people. My wife and I have helped folks out there, and but we're kind of discriminating, like who we help. Like you don't want to pick up some folks, out there, and you don't really know their intent, and but I like to think most people are good versus bad. So yeah, we picked up some people out there, and we've helped them out. So yes, I have picked up a hitchhiker, but they were elderly. So, there's a difference. You won't get stabbed or ganked. At least in a perfect world, you won't. So yeah, that's that. So yes, I have picked up a hitchhiker. So that's just some of the stuff that you can get from Poddex coming straight from you. If I can get this right, Poddex coming straight to you from the What the Heck deck. And like I said, they got they got all kinds of stuff out there. So, check them out. And like I said, throw in that Marauder 1, get that 10% off, get them decks. So, like I said, it's Tuesday, May 12th. The month is flying by, and we had just had our, fourth night of The Last Dance, the superb ESPN documentary that's been going on for, the past couple of weeks, and it has been a very welcomed distraction from what's going on in the world. And that's what we're marauding on today. So, I got a buddy that's going to be joining us here in a little bit. We got Jeff Hunt from the Jeff Needs Help podcast. He'll be joining us. He's just wrapping up some time with another show, but he's going to be on there on here tonight as well. Marauding with. We've been talking about Jordan. If you caught his show last week, I was on there and he broke down the Charles Barkley meeting you had with him. So he's a really good dude. He'll be getting on here shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and just dive straight into it, right? So these episodes, man, they hit different. I didn't think, the guy who produced these or created these could top himself after last week's episodes. and with the Kobe Bryant thing and everything, and it was getting into the gambling and stuff, and it really got into the meat of Michael Jordan and the Bulls and stuff like that. But episode 7, this was different. It was a lot of personal stuff, and you got to really go deep into Michael Jordan the person, and see a lot of the things that we didn't see, or maybe we knew already, but you go a little bit deeper into it and just see how he thought, his thought process, and the psycho, Michael Jordan the psycho, who was obsessed and obsessed with winning, and yeah, so you just learn a little bit about him, where there's something that you really want to know about Mike, but all the same, you got a little bit more this week. So yeah, the first thing I took away from this one was Mike was tired. Mike was done, and it wasn't a secret. Well, it was a secret to the Bulls and all them, but to the guys, one of his best friends, and also one of the writers of Rare Air, one of the biographies that was written about Michael. He knew that Mike was done, and Mike even talked about giving it up, after the second championship. But he had the Olympics coming up, and he had that obligation, and he had the commitment, and they had a three-peat, which had only been done by 2 other teams, hanging in the balance, to do. And that would have been something that he would have had over Magic and Larry and Isaiah, especially Isaiah. So, he was in it to finish that out. But Mike was tired. There was a lot of things going on. The gambling and all that stuff was becoming an issue and kind of a distraction. And, and Mike was definitely feeling it. The motivation wasn't there, and all that stuff. And what I liked about this was that it led off with the first round of the playoffs. And, Mike was tired coming into, the next year in 94, after they had won. He was already exhausted, but then it showed that he was again tired, at this point, for his last year going into that first round against the New Jersey Nets. And that sounds so weird to say because of the Brooklyn Nets now, but I remember the New Jersey Nets. But yes, so the New Jersey Nets with Kerry Kittles and Chris Gatling and Keith Van Horn and all those guys and stuff. If you remember those teams back in the day, solid squads, but they just could never really get over the hump, except for when they kind of showed up and they got Jason Kidd and stuff later on. But that's another story. So what I liked about this portion of it showed that it was the old vets, the old guard, the old warriors were getting tired, and just like Rudy Tomjanovich said, you never underestimate the heart of a champion. And the Bulls were the reigning champs, and they were coming into their last dance, virtual last dance. And the Nets were kind of like a team, like, all right, hey, you made it. Unfortunately, you got the AC, you got to play Chicago. So what I really, really liked about this was that, the Nets came in and they put a scare into the Bulls. They really put a scare into those guys. And, everybody was talking about a sweep, and man, these cats shouldn't lose by more than 15 or win by more than 15, just putting it out there and kind of disrespecting. But these guys came in ready to rock, and they gave him quite a little bit of a scare, shook him up a little bit, and Mike wasn't happy. But what stood out in that series, or in that sequence, was the camera work. What I loved the most about that whole sequence with the Net series was the camera work and the music they played. And the song was called Time to Shine, and it's by a group or an artist called The Crow. I've been trying to find this. I found the song, but the song is so dope, and it plays really well with the intensity of the Bulls and then ratcheting it up, and just the camera work. The camera work is something I'd never seen, and it, especially for back in that, 20-some years ago, 22 years ago, they had, floor level camera viewing. And it looked like it was just being recorded today. Like this was actually happening today. So beautiful work, beautiful camera work. I'm not a cinematographer by any means, far be it from me to actually have any insight on it, but I just like the way it looked. It was just a beautiful sequence, and another feather in the cap of the team who put this together. I thought it was great. So rewind it back. You get back to the point. They had just won their three-peat. Mike was tired. And then, his father, James, disappears. They hadn't seen him or heard from him in a couple weeks. And hey, what's happening, Linda Sue? Thank you for dialing in. Matt Mullen, what's happening? No, I don't know you, man, but thanks for tuning in. But so his father had disappeared. There was some concern and stuff, and it was in North Carolina. And I remember when this happened. I was 14, 15 when this happened. I was going into my 8th grade year. And when this happened, when all the stuff with James Jordan happened, and as you know, and if you followed Mike or knew anything about it, even just by watching this show, you know that him and his father were incredibly close. That was his best friend, that was his confidant, and that was his compass in life. When Mike was, doing other things, his father pulled him back in and, kind of brought that perspective and kind of brought it back home for Mike to keep him focused. And, even as a kid, he told the story about when, he was on the wrong path, cutting up and, getting in a lot of trouble. His father pulled him off to the side, said, look, if you keep going this direction, you can forget about sports. And Mike never got into trouble again. So he valued his father's input and loved him dearly. And, to come to find out that his father was killed by a couple of kids, 18-year-old kids, it was tragic enough to lose his father, but to lose him in a violent way where he was robbed and, and they killed him and just basically dumped his body. And it was very sad. And you could see the pain in Mike, even when he spoke about it, when they asked him about his father, just the man in character, right? Just his character. You could see the pain in Mike's face. And, when they asked him, he's like, he was like a friend. He's like, yeah, he was like a friend. And it was so heartbreaking to watch. This is years later. And, by no means am I making light of the situation. And I feel for those who have lost family members, but just to see the pain right there in front of you and somebody who has accomplished so much and he's well in his 50s now, Hall of Famer, greatest basketball player of all time. And that pain is still so raw and so real. And, me and my wife, we were watching and we started tearing up, just because you feel for the man. And it's just, if it wasn't for his mother, who knows where Mike would have went. Shout out to Dolores Jordan, Miss Dolores Jordan, for telling Mike just to, just be thankful, and I don't know the conversations they had, but that's what I got out of the show, was just to be thankful. And Mike took that and turned it around and basically used that as his calling card for greatness going forward, just to be grateful. And what I didn't think was very fair was the fact that the media didn't even take any time. They were really, really disrespectful. Didn't really take any time to let this man grieve. And, he's gone through a lot with the gambling allegations, losing his father, and he was just burnt out. And it was just sad to watch, these people just looking for something, looking to pull something. And I said in the very first episode of this, when we talked about Jerry Krause, success breeds jealousy. And I think there was a lot of jealousy out there, with Mike, with everything he had accomplished. He just had a three-peat. I believe he was MVP again, and it's just, when you're on top for so long, they're always looking for a way to knock you down. And that was, what they were doing by tying, at least trying to tie his gambling connections and gambling activities back to, what happened with his father. So I really don't think that was fair. Nothing ever came out of it. So I have my ideas. I think that, maybe James was tied into something on his own that didn't have anything to do with Mike. Potentially that could have been it. Or it could have just been one of those situations where, hey, it was the wrong place, the wrong time. But, if you're going to rob the man, all you have to do is look at his wallet, look at his car, look at what he's driving, look at his wallet, look at him. He looked like Michael Jordan, like an old version of Michael Jordan. And you could probably see maybe this ain't what we want, but it's unfortunate. And you can tell Mike was heartbroken, not only from that, but just the fact that the way the media just kind of turned on him and he had given everything and he did it the right way. That's what's so crazy, is that he had done everything the right way. His gambling, that was personal. They never lost when he was gambling, but the media just kind of just turned on him and instead of finding the great things that he does or any type of charitable things he's done, you're looking for dirt. You're looking for dirt to try to be the one to break it. And so Mike was done. And they were talking about Jerry Krause. He's at a baseball game and somebody said, hey, he had the conversation with the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, who was also the owner of the White Sox at the time, or probably still is. And he said, I'm done. He goes, I'm done. I have nothing else to prove. He talked to, and he said, well, you need to talk to Phil if you're going to do this. So out of respect, they've gone through the battles, they've gone through the wars. They had built that franchise from, decent team to a juggernaut, and he owed that to Phil. I really think he owed that to Phil. So they had the conversation, and Phil didn't want to see him go. His words were, you're depriving, people of your gift, but he understood. He understood that Mike needed time to step away and take care of himself. And that's also, a huge attribute of Phil Jackson, recognizing somebody needs time away, no matter how great they are. There's a lot of pressure on that guy, and we saw those demands in the last episodes. And, I think it was just coming to a head. So Mike shut it down, right? Mike shut it down. And, I remember seeing it and I didn't believe it. It was just so hard to fathom that, why would this dude leave the game? And now, 14-year-old me versus 40-year-old me, you see it a lot differently. You live life a little bit and you see the things that are important to you. And it's kind of hard to, put yourself in Mike's shoes because, I get annoyed when my kids ask me questions over and over again. Can you imagine? You can't even literally go down the street. You can't even go get like a hot dog without somebody in your ear asking you for something, asking you for an autograph, asking you for this, that. So I get it. I get it now, in hindsight. But I also understand the fact that, this is what you signed up for. The homie Nolan is actually from Chicago. So he said, we didn't know what the city was going to do when that happened. I'm surprised y'all didn't riot. I'm surprised y'all didn't burn that down. Chicago, y'all get wild, man. So I'm surprised. And I think just looking at the footage, you saw all these different people, man, just sitting around. They had kids. Kids were watching this, and it was a world event. Kids were crying in school, like in the little assembly halls and stuff like that. And I remember being bummed out. But I was like, okay, cool. Good thing Scottie's still there, or, it's a good thing we still got these other guys still around. But it was definitely a void. It was a huge void in the league. And while, it was an opportunity for everybody else to step up, like your Houston Rockets, your Knicks finally got over, your Pacers look good. All these other teams, Orlando Magic finally stepped up. It was a good opportunity for other teams to really, really push and try to get that spot up there. So, it is what it is. But Mike took a step back and said that he wanted to try baseball. Hadn't played since he was 17, and he was 31 at the time, but he was going to play baseball. So, hats off to Jerry Reinsdorf for having the foresight and the business acumen to think, well, hey, I own the White Sox and the Bulls. So, Mike, hey, if you're going to go to any team, why don't you come to the White Sox? So, basically, I don't know how it happened. Maybe they slid his contract over. But Mike was playing for the Birmingham Barons AA ball. And the only reason he started in AA ball was because, the media, like the Birmingham Barons stadium could fit the media. So it was a weird time. I remember watching Mike, and it just looked off. It looked off. He was super tall, 6'6". And when he would swing, it's just like he overextended, but it was just natural for him because he was so long. And Mike wasn't bad. It's just he wasn't Michael Jordan on the diamond, if that makes sense. So, you wanted to see greatness. And he ran off like a 13-game hit streak or something like that. And, that's incredible until they started hitting him with the breaker ball and he couldn't hit anymore. And, you found Michael's kryptonite. Finally, there was something Michael Jordan could do. He couldn't hit a breaking ball. So with that being known, that man went into his toolbox and got to work. He dedicated himself to being the best that he could be at that sport. And, Terry Francona, who was the Red Sox, skipper. And then, he's with the Indians now. He was his manager for the Birmingham Barons. So imagine this skipper who was responsible for breaking the curse, the Bambino's curse with the Red Sox. And not only did you do that, but you also were Michael Jordan's baseball coach, when he left the game, so it's so cool. I love this series because you see how all these careers cross paths and all these great people cross paths and in the events that come from it. So I thought that was really dope too. So, Mike he's going at it and stuff. And, he was gone for 18 months. It was an 18-month exodus. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. My question to you guys is, do you think the conspiracy theories are fair or not? Were the allegations justified, or do you think, the media was reaching? I personally think it's a little bit of both, because when you let people be privy to your activities, I think a natural thing is that people are going to form an opinion, right? So you give people something to judge, they're going to do that. And with Michael Jordan arguably being the most famous person on the planet, it was going to happen. So my question to you, do you think the theories are fair or not, considering Jordan's status at the time? So please chime in with your comments, hit me up, and we'll discuss. So back to the Exodus, right? So, you know, he's doing that. To me, I was a little, like I said, I was a little bummed out, but like I said, it was like the Bulls were breaking up, but you still had, you know, the core. And this is from Linda Sue. She says both. So, you know, I mean, people see it that way. You know, you see a little bit of both, and that's definitely a fair assessment, because, you know, Linda, if you can give me a little bit more insight on that, I'd definitely like to hear your opinion. So, but yeah, and there was also, you know, speculation that, you know, David Stern, who was a commissioner at the time, he was a secret suspension, right? Like, this is the only way we can cover it up in order for the league to kind of save face and stuff like that. We don't want to tarnish your reputation, but we got to do something about it. So, so that was, you know, that was something that was also out there, which I don't believe that was the case. That would have been idiotic, especially for, you know, the type of commissioner that David Stern was, where he was looking at growing the league and improving the league, bringing Euro players and all that stuff over. So why would you get rid of your cash cow, your most famous face in the league? Why would you do that if you're looking to make money like that? So, you know, I don't buy into that necessarily, but you know, I'm just a guy with a podcast. So, but anyway, so moving on. So Mike shut down the world with his retirement, and it was just wild. I think, you know, what Mike got out of baseball was that he got joy. He got joy, and he got a sense of freedom back. And it was kind of nice to see, like, you know, there wasn't, yes, he had the entourage, and he still had people following, asking for autographs and all these different things and stuff like that. But he had a sense of peace, like, you know, and they showed in the locker room, you know, the guys were spraying him with water and beer and stuff like that. And, you know, there wasn't that heavy burden on him having to carry the Bulls franchise. He was just one of the guys. And I think that's what all these athletes want in some capacity. You just want to be one of the guys. It's just you have an extraordinary world-class talent. And, you know, that sets you apart. But aside from that, you're probably just a normal guy. Like LeBron comes across as a normal guy. Kobe came across as a normal guy. And you saw that even more with his personality once he stepped away from the court. So these are normal folks just put in extraordinary situations with extraordinary gifts. So, and I think he really enjoyed that. And that's what his best friend, the gentleman on there, said that's something that he cherished, was that time. So fast forward back to, you know, 96, 97. And Scott Burrell, I like to point out the villain of the week, but I really can't find one this time. It's just Scott Burrell and Steve Kerr and BJ Armstrong, Horace Grant. They're all kind of like more whipping boys than villains this episode. But you saw the tough love, right? Like Mike, man, he didn't spare anybody. And well, we got the homie up, and we got Jeff. What is up?
What is up, my man? Me and Chris we got into some deep stuff. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It was not intentional. I apologize to your fans. I'm sure you've been doing fine without me.
That's right. All four of them appreciate it, man. They're understanding. It's okay.
No, man. That's me and Chris. We got to talking college football and went down some long roads, man.
Went down that rabbit hole, huh?
Yeah. You have to talk. You have to get with him sometime. You guys will be. He's a smart guy. That was fun.
Bet.
We just wrapped up. I jumped on here. I'm not trying to big time you, but you were nice enough to let me on. I know we've been excited about this for a few days. So what have you been talking about? Catch me up. Just say everything again.
Oh man, see, so Linda Sue said it's on now that you jumped on, man. So
well,
you got some fans out there. So the homie Nolan, he's from Chicago, so he sees the Cubs flag back there. So yeah,
Nolan, yeah, man, cool.
Yeah. Let me ask you, what's up with the Rockets hat, man? Where is this coming from?
I just thought this was a little bit of a throwback tonight. You like that?
Yeah, it's nice. That's the old school Rockets.
It's nice, isn't it?
Not that goofy rocket they had like when they changed from that logo to that's good.
Steve France, you talking about the Stevie franchise year?
Yeah. And the first
Yao Ming.
Yeah, those are whack. Those are super whack. So But anyway,
I thought you might like it. That's all.
I appreciate it.
Everybody
So
gets tired of
let me
seeing
get you caught up. So I'm still in the middle talking about episode 7, right? So I'm just back to the tough love where the Mike was laying on Scott Burrell and Steve Kerr and BJ Armstrong, Horace Grant. I talked about, before that, I backed it up, and I want to get your take. So when Mike retired, where were you and how did you feel about it?
Oh, see, now that when he retired in 93, it was kind of weird because that was the year I graduated. So we were so busy with just being kids and graduating and all that. It wasn't like, you weren't really watching sports all day, but no, it hit like a brick. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Like, and when you're young, Michael he seemed way older. Like I look back now, I'm like, he was like 29 or 30 years old.
Right. He was 31. It was crazy, huh?
Yes, but then I'm like, it's been because he was, I kind of watched him play most of my life, so it wasn't as impactful.
Right.
We won't get into it. The next time, that one hit. But no, it was rough because then you had no idea what was next. Like all you knew was Michael Jordan's the greatest player on earth, Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan, Michael Jordan, and then it was taken away. And then you're like, what? But we got excited. We're like, oh, he's going to go play baseball. And then, of course, we're kids. We're like, oh, he's going to be in the majors. He's the best. Like, it was silliness. It was total silliness. But no, it stung. It stung a little bit.
Yeah. So, what did you think about, and I'm going to take it back. I don't want to get too deep and rehash all this for the listeners that's been on. Yeah. But what did you think about the opening sequence? We know when they were talking about New Jersey and New Jersey getting that scare and they came back and just put foot to ass on them like that. I love that sequence, man. That whole sequence, how that played out.
Yes, it was. And here's the thing is, once again, I'm a fan and I'm old enough. Like, I remember that. Like, I totally remember those. I remember those first round series. I think it was, let me see, it might've been 97. They played the Heat in one of those series. Yes. I think Tim Hardaway and was there,
and Lonzo Mourning.
Yeah, that was those years. Like they've kind of left those guys out of the conversation, but that was a tough team we played. Yeah. So yeah, I totally remember that. Like it was so weird because you're like nothing mattered until they won the championship. So everything. It was just like everything was either a slip up or if they won, it was like, okay, they won.
Right.
The weirdest thing.
There was no in between.
You didn't enjoy the victories. It was just like, you got to get to, and I think that I think Michael went through a lot of that personally. And I think that was a lot of the breakdown. It was like, like, it was just like, we got to get this out of the way. And when they talked about, well, you're not there yet, so I'm catching up. But yeah, it was, I remember that was an eye opener. And those Nets team, I mean, that was a weird, and every team that would beat the Bulls one time back then was like, okay, we're the greatest team ever. And they would run them out, just like they said. I'm like, no, you just, and you see that a lot with like, if a team beats LeBron now, it's like, you know what I mean? They immediately want to dance on his grave. And it's when there's that much pressure, when you can only win, when there's no option to lose, that changes the way a team plays basketball, changes everything about them. And I think that's these Bulls teams. If you watch, that's kind of the purpose of watching this, is you're like, it was nothing. You couldn't do anything but win a championship. Everything else was a failure. Other teams didn't get that option. So that changes everything.
And the thing is, it's like you're getting those teams' best every single night. You are getting their best. And the Bulls, they can afford to coast. So
yes,
the Bulls always up to play like the Vancouver Grizzlies or the Toronto Raptors at the time. They didn't care, but those guys came out gunning. You were the target, and they wanted to make their name off of you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that was especially like the guards, like just like they showed the kid, man. If you could score against Jordan one night, you were. Oh, what are you drinking tonight, man? You got a mule there?
Yes, sir, I do. My wife hooked this up for me. It's a bit strong, but I'm liking it. So refreshing.
The second one won't taste near as strong. What kind of mule you like? You got a standard like vodka mule. I like I'm a Kentucky mule guy. Bourbon.
Yeah, bourbon. I haven't tried that one yet.
Oh man, it's one you got. They call the one like Mobile or. It's the rum mule, but I'm a Kentucky mule fan with the bourbon in it. Yeah, you have to definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'm a big rum drinker, so I haven't even tried the rum one yet. So
yeah. They call it different things. Some people call it Mobile mule. Some people call it something else. I don't know why it's Mobile. I've never had rum from Mobile, Alabama. I'm not saying they don't have it. You know what I mean? I think of rum. I think of Jamaica myself, but
So let me ask you also. What did you think about the conspiracy theories as far as like, the gambling playing a part in it? And,
It's
you know?
all. I think okay. The one guy on there said it exactly. Like he took the words out of my mouth. He saved me so much time on Twitter that night when he was just like, "There's not a thimble of evidence. It's." Remember he goes, "Can I say this? It's bullshit." Like,
Right.
so here's my argument. We talked about this a little the other day. First of all, how would you keep that under wraps for all these years? Like
Right.
nobody ever like caved and told the secrets. And I'm like, why would so you think Michael Jordan was the only guy that had any of these issues with gambling or anything? So they would pick him to punish for 18. Like it was so bad, they picked him to punish for 18 months. And then if a guy has a gambling problem that bad, I mean, me and you both know people like that have addictive personalities and stuff. Most people with gambling issues, I mean, and I'm being serious, don't wind up owning an NBA team.
Exactly, because they'll lock you out. If there's a history of that, they won't want you in there because it'll be bad for the league, right?
Yeah. And you usually gamble all your money away.
Yeah. Well, Mike has money coming out of his ears, man. Like,
and the secret, the reason I don't think Mike had a gambling problem is that, and you see it time after time. Like you see it with him gambling the quarters with the boy on the video, man. Our dude,
that dude with the hair, he is the unsung hero of this whole.
He's a star. He's a star. I feel bad because I look at his age then, and I wonder if he's still with us.
Right.
I hope so. But the thing is, Michael would bet you $1 on something. People with gambling problems you got to gamble enough to feel it. So people with gambling problems are like, if Mike had a gambling problem, he would be betting that guy $1 million or 10 million, like whatever it took to make you feel something. Mike he said it. I had a competition problem. Now that I believe, but I never believed it at the time. I hear it all the time. All the Mike haters are always telling me like, well, yeah, you got thrown out of the league. No, man, that was all genuine. Yeah. Like, what has Mike done on this so far to act like you're seeing behind the scene footage of it happening? You're seeing practice, you're seeing the locker room stuff. He hasn't done nothing to disprove that he's been genuine the whole time. Yeah, he's an asshole.
Yeah, okay. That's the only thing you can really hit him for, being a hell of a basketball player, hell of an athlete, and an asshole. I mean, that's basically so all right. No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying in general, just all that stuff's just bullshit.
Okay, so now we're caught back up. So back to the tough love, right? So Charles Barkley came out and said today that Michael Jordan picks and chooses who he could go at. What do you think about that?
You know what? Here's the thing. I guess I don't know because they don't show him picking and choosing Horace Grant, Bill Cartwright. I guess there's two theories. What if you think Mike's a bully, then Charles is right. I would totally agree. If you think that Mike is a guy, like I look at Mike more like he was a great teammate, but he was more of a boss. Like he was more of a type of a coach and a boss on that team. And so I don't look as any different than me. Like we're on a site, and if I got a kid that I think is maybe like thinks he can't do what I think he can do, you know the deal, man. Well, you know what, dude, you're in the military. Like you totally get it. Like sometimes you're not necessarily picking on the weaker but you know that you can rise them up. And maybe a little tougher on them because, he said it about Steve Kerr, and I say it all the time about employees or my son. Like I raised my son like Michael Jordan raised Steve Kerr, and he will admit he hasn't watched this yet because he hasn't watched the series, so he can't watch any of my podcast.
I don't see how people aren't watching this, man. There's still some people I've talked to who have not seen a single episode.
He's waiting to binge it, and I'm like, how are you not? So. But I raised him like that because that's how the world's going to be. And and Mike kind of said that, like that the Knicks aren't going to take it easy. The Knicks aren't going to back off. So I mean, Charles would know better than me that if Mike was like that, and maybe they're slanting this to where we're only seeing like they're putting it in a good light. Maybe he was just a total bully, but man, his team's like, if a guy's like that, you see the way his teammates, like I watched those games, man, his teammates were there for him every game. They made like guys like Randy Brown, like that dude might give you 2 great minutes of basketball back then. And that's crazy to think of.
But they were quality minutes. You knew that Randy was going to give you at least 5, right?
So do you do that for a guy that you really like dislike or hate? Because here's the thing, back then the money was kind of the same. They could have went anywhere and played. Those guys could have went anywhere. It wasn't like Dellavedova from Cleveland now getting paid for some ridiculous amount of money that like $17 million. Like
exactly. He goes and makes money with Milwaukee after cashing in. So Linda Sue says that everyone's fair game. So in a sense, I agree. I think that, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and Mike Mike wasn't having it. And he even made a good point to say that, these guys, Steve Kerr and all those guys, they showed up, riding coattails, basically. Like, you weren't there when we sucked and then had to go through all those battles. But now because you're on the team, all of a sudden, oh, you're a champion too. He's like, no, he goes, you're going to come in here and work. And there's a certain level of expectation, and you need to meet that. And those guys had to earn that. And same with Scott Burrell. I think he saw something.
Man, I like Scott Burrell.
And Scott Burrell, man, and looking at it, I probably would have snapped. But that dude kept it so cool.
Yeah.
And he probably knew. He said, if I snap on this dude, or maybe somebody told him, like, you got to take it. Because if he didn't like you, he wouldn't mess with you. It's probably one of those things.
You said it better. That's what I was getting at. I said all those words, but you wrapped it up. That's exactly the way.
Yeah.
I always that's how I am too. Like, I never pick on somebody that can't take it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I'm messing with you, I know you can take it. I know you're mentally strong and strong enough. I'm not picking on it. I'm not comparing myself to Michael Jordan anyway. I mean, we have some similarities. Like, we're male.
That's all you need. It's good enough.
But you just wrapped it up, man. That's exactly right. Like, you wouldn't be on a team. And that's the thing about these Bulls teams. And I remember that I swear every player on that team, even when like they haven't even really showed him much, like Robert Parrish was on those teams, man.
No, right? And John Sally got a ring with him.
And John Sally, like, could he had some skills. Like, he might come in for 2 minutes and make one play. You know what I mean? Like, but every player had that, and I don't think you'd be able to think that Mike admits this. Like, Mike didn't. Mike wasn't like LeBron's. Like, not to compare the two, but I'm like, LeBron's our best player right now in general. Like, but he's the kind of guy that, like, he doesn't lead like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, he has a totally different style.
He has the Scottie mindset, the Scottie way of leading.
I always compare those two. I think they're very similar. Exactly. Yeah. And we saw what happened in '94 and '95. I said this earlier. I'm not dogging Scottie. I love him, but he's not made that way. He's not made like Mike, and that's fine. You got to have Scottie. Two Michaels on a team wouldn't have worked either.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So and that leads me right into the next point. So, with the tough love, also, I think Mike built these guys into being complete players, probably being the best version of themselves they can be. I think that's what he did. And so I think there's a fear of failing Mike because he set the expectation so high. And he also said, I never asked him to do anything that I didn't do myself.
That's the difference right there, is that, and what Steve Kerr say, I was just as competitive. I just didn't have the skill set to back it up. So when you put because I hear that a lot. Me and you hear that a lot. Like, oh, I'm so competitive. I don't even know what that means. Like, we all are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if you ever played a game and didn't care if you won, I mean, that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean you, like, cheated or anything, but you still tried to win. Like, I don't care if you're playing checkers, you tried to win. We're all
going to win, right? Or what's the point of playing?
It's do you have the skill to back it up? And the guys that have that, like I think Kobe's probably over Michael Jordan as far as the love of winning.
You think? Oh,
I really did.
No. Going into this, I thought so, but I think Mike was so maniacal with it because he had grudges, dude. He had like grudges set in levels, like how he was going to get you back.
Yeah.
And I think Kobe was just like, you're not going to beat me. It was just plain out. You're not going to beat me to even get a chance for me to form a grudge. So
yeah, Kobe was more cerebral as to where Mike's was more. But Mike played in a time to where you could do that. We talked about this. I've talked about this with some people. If Mike played like the way he played today, not to compare the generations, but like with the way he took care of his body and stuff,
right,
he would have struggled in the game because like these guys like LeBron and Kobe, the way they the nutrition and the workouts. I know they talk about how hard Mike worked out, and I know he did, but he didn't take care of himself like these guys do now. Not till later.
Yeah.
Right. So like I think that's part of the Kobe's say his competitive factor. Like you say, Mike had the grudges and the hatred and just like, I don't know, it's kind of just it's kind of
psychotic. Right? It was psychotic.
Yeah. Where Kobe was like, I'm going to be a better player than you, like, body and soul every night, and that's going to give me a chance to win every game. So different approaches. So that's a good point. But yeah, Mike's just he's just kind of a crazy person with a skill set that can't be matched. There's a lot of guys like that they can't keep it together, and Mike somehow. I don't know, man. He's an odd mix. I don't know if he's a sociopath. I wish they talked more to. I really wish they would talk more to his ex-wife, because I think you would find out so much more about the real Mike. You're not going to, but
and you know what? There's a lot of money, a lot of hush money where she'll never tell that story. She'll never tell that story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So moving on, let's talk about Scottie's time and his, subsequent failure, right? So, the new look Bulls, it was weird to see, because I remember tuning in and wanting to see it, and it was just so weird not seeing Michael there, right?
It was odd.
It was very weird, and you're thinking like maybe he's gonna come out and surprise. Never showed up, right? So, but Scottie flourished, and this was, I told my wife, I said he needed this. This was something that he needed to show to be the man, and he was in the MVP running, and I mean he was balling, man. He was balling, and they were playing free, and they were moving the ball around. The triangle was flowing. He was facilitating. Yeah. And Scottie looked good. Scottie looked really good.
They were really good that year.
Yeah. And then it boiled down to Scottie, they drew up the play for Tony Kukoc. Scottie didn't want in, and there's that blemish on Scottie's record from there on.
They can't be erased. And you know what? If you really, even those last 3 years, I don't think they're going to get into it on the doc. Tony Kukoc had some great games, like some really important games, but you still never felt like they were never a big three, if that makes any sense.
No. I think with Rodman, they were a big three.
Yeah. But Kukoc should have been that guy. Like, Kukoc was a great player, talented player. And I think that Scottie just had a problem with him, and I think it went back to those, when they
because he was supposed to replace them.
Yeah,
and that's why he was brought in, and they still were, you're on the team, we'll make it work, but you ain't one of us. It's one of those types of things,
Okay. So to be like, I won't call it devil's advocate, but we just talked about Scottie. I always think that Jordan groomed Scottie for that moment to be the next Jordan.
Yes.
If they would have done the exact same thing and it was Jordan, Jackson would have never called that play for Kukoc over Jordan.
No.
So, and that if Jordan would have done the same thing Scottie did, everybody would well, that's Jordan.
Right.
So what if Kukoc misses that? The story's different.
Exactly.
The entire story's different.
And that was the worst thing that could have happened for Scottie, was that he hit it. He's like, damn it. So, I looked at it again, and in a sense, I don't blame Scottie, because Scottie had earned the right to take that shot.
100%.
He earned the right. He went through those battles with Mike, those battles with Detroit, those battles with Boston, in New York, and he earned the right to take that shot. But, once again, here's the other side of it. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about, okay, if we win this, we keep moving. So we're still, trying to win a championship, and it would say more about Scottie if he played along and they won a championship. With that. So. I get it, man. It's raw feelings. It's like, if I'm supposed to be your guy, then trust me to take the shot. But the thing is, everybody knew that Scottie would have took the shot, so it could have went either way. But what I will tell you is that the unsung hero, besides the guy with the weird hair and the security guy, the unsung hero of all of this, Bill Cartwright.
Yeah, that's my man.
Bill Cartwright, man, because Bill Cartwright I would say he was probably the soul of that team, where everybody had the talent. I say Bill Cartwright was the soul, because
I'm glad you said it.
Instead of just letting it go by and Phil Jackson had to say something, he stood up and called it out. And look, you let us down. And it hurt him, man, because they were already hurting with Mike leaving, and they needed him to at least buy in, and just be on board. And it hurt him that he quit. He quit on them, just like Mike. So, yeah,
that's a good call, man. I think that Bill Cartwright was one of the most important teammates that Michael Jordan ever had.
Whether he wanted him or not, but he was.
Yep, it sounds silly, but he was just old enough, and he was kind of a veteran, grumpy old guy. But he never catered to Mike. Bill knew his skill. There you go. There's one that Bill just didn't. Bill could have been Akeem Olajuwon with his skill set, but he didn't have it. So that's what separates players. But Bill, he's one of my favorites all time. I understand he couldn't be there for the next three, but I think he was really important. And he nipped it in the bud. He recognized the situation. He read the room, and it was over.
Yeah. And
freaking cool, man. That guy's so freaking cool.
And that's the thing. It's like, you had to say it. You had to say it, because you had a bunch of new guys who weren't going to say nothing. They're like, man, you know what? You were wrong. You were wrong, and you hurt the team.
Yeah.
You know, so shout out to Bill Cartwright. I'd love to get you on, man. Yeah, definitely.
Think, you know what? We should do that, man. If you get him on, I'm in.
All right.
I love, I'm gonna work on that.
All right, let's make it happen. So, all right. So Pip's time. You know, there was some failures. You know, they came up short against the Knicks, and and the Knicks came up short against the Rockets. So, but watching the Bulls get eliminated, Michael was sitting in the clubhouse, right? Didn't even have his name on it. It was like Jordan 45 and tape, like right up there. So, and he's sitting there watching, and it had to eat at him, dude.
Absolutely,
it had to eat at him.
Yeah,
and, and what I compared it to was as if Superman was watching the world burn and refused to help him. He refused to help the people. Like, they got to figure it out themselves. That's
there you go. You said there, you finished that. I'm glad you finished that. They got to figure it out. And I think, and you've already brought it up, obviously, that was that season was probably more important to the next 3 championships. They probably would have won 4 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Without that season, who knows if they win 6? You're right. And I think that's exactly what it was. I really think that he's like, these guys got to do this on their own. He never said like, I woulda.
Yeah. He just, hey, I'm a fan like everybody else. Yeah.
I genuinely think he wanted that team to win. I don't think he rooted against that team like a lot of people probably perceived that he did.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool, man, to get that footage of the locker room and all that. That was, that's what that documentary is all about. Yeah, that's a great point, man. That's exactly what it was like.
Yeah. So you flash back, right? So and flashback to the sequence with the Nets, right? And you got to see that Bulls team in its full glory. Like that scene, man, it's like it was no talking. It was just music and watching those cats do work, man. It was beautiful. And I mean, Rodman was rebounding, Jordan was scoring.
Great, isn't it?
I mean, and Pippen was doing this. It was just beautiful to watch, man. And it was just so enjoyable. And it's like, it takes you back to like, this was just a fun time in basketball. Yes, the Bulls were winning all the time, but it was just a fun time in basketball, man. And so I really thought that was dope.
Oh, man, the soundtrack, the music montages alone, I would just watch. It's like, you get it, man. For guys like us that watched it, it is. I can't say enough about it. I mean, the music choices are perfect.
Perfect, just spot on, man.
Oh man, they're and they when they play when they went to Atlanta, they automatically play Outkast.
Yeah,
you can. Like, if you're old enough, like when they play a song, it really takes you to that time.
And that's the thing. That's what I enjoy it so much. And I was like, I remember this. I remember when this happened, and that was the music, and it was just, I enjoyed it.
They're doing such a great job. I haven't even got into like looking at like who made this and all the production. It's going to win all the Emmys, like just the production value.
Yeah, I said it. I said whoever Jeff, I think his name is Jeff Hirer or something like that, or John Hirer, Jeff Hirer.
Jeff Hunt. I think you said Jeff Hunt.
That dude.
I didn't make it yet.
But that dude might as well go ahead and just clear off a shelf in his house because it could be loaded up with awards. And maybe, potentially, maybe even an Oscar if it goes that far. I don't know. Maybe best documentary.
If it's eligible, yeah. I guess I don't know. I don't know if it'll be eligible or not because I don't know. That's
Kobe's Muse. It was a kind of like a documentary thing. So and it won. So
it's a good point. Yeah. It's good. It should win everything. It's just masterfully done. The editing. I love how they're shifting the timeline. Like even how they show it. Like click, 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 click. Now we're at 93. They've really told 3 or 4 stories in one. And the edit, just the way and they're not losing people. You know what I mean? They're not. I know it's easy for me because I know when they show it, like I kind of know the Bulls teams by like, is Rodman there? Is Horace Grant there? Like,
exactly. It's two different Bulls.
Wennington, is it Cartwright? You know what I mean? Is Cooper? Yeah, I can divide that stuff up. I'm old enough to have watched it. But the way they're doing it, it's one. They're doing such a good job. It's must see TV, like beyond.
Exactly. So I'm gonna hit you with the last scene, right? So Michael's talking about winning comes at a price and leadership comes at a price. And then, the emotional breakdown. We didn't see that coming, man. Like when he broke down at the end of episode 7, and my wife was like, I wasn't expecting that. Like
I had heard about it. I got tipped off, which I didn't know like what it was going to look like. And I'd read something about it because I was prepping for the show. Mm-hmm. And that's crazy, man. Like because he's kind of a robot. You know how many times first of all, let's just be thankful that we got a guy in his position that will tell us these stories. Like, this guy's an NBA owner. He's one of the most, he's one of the biggest businessmen in the entire world.
Exactly.
And he will sit down and tell us these stories about when he played basketball. So, whatever you think of him, who cares? He's doing it. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, that was something, man. The way they've conveyed emotion in this, it really tugs at you. Especially, I mean, I'm probably a bigger fan than your average, human of Michael Jordan. But the way it tugs at you, and yeah. Well, we haven't got into the next episode, but yeah, it's just been, oh man.
Yeah, and it sounded like, when he was talking about, if you don't want to play that way, don't play that way, and you can see him getting emotional. It's like, that is so crazy to be that invested in winning that it affects you emotionally. But I also think that he misses the game, and I think that there's some pain still and some regret. I think
he's got a lot of regret.
Yeah, I think so. And but I think that was part of that emotional kind of like that breakdown right there, because I was like, Mike, man, like what's up, man? And and it's probably always been there, but I guess, but you know what? And it's a lot of editing. We don't know what the conversation was leading up to that too. So.
Oh yeah, well, that's what they do. That's what we're here for. It's a movie. But I think you're not wrong. I think that all of us who, whatever it is, like, I can remember things I did in a silly, I don't know, basketball game or high school football game or something, and I regret decisions I made. Like, I don't think he's any different. Like, fame, success, the championships don't erase mistakes he made. He might feel bad about, the way, what is something he said to a teammate. He might feel bad. Like, that he's said things over the years that he totally regrets.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't think him and Charles get along. Like,
no, they had a falling out. And, Charles called him on something and he didn't like it. And they've been cool since like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah. And it was, you know what I mean? So like, Mike's burned a lot of bridges over the years. Money and fame, and he's a classic guy that he's probably gonna have this legacy, and he's gonna have all this. But when it comes down to it, when he's finally ready to leave this earth, I don't expect for it to be that great around him. He's just that kind of guy, man. Like, he just
really?
I don't know how happy guys like that can get without the sport, without the drive or whatever they do. I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope he's happy as can be. But
I would just like to see him in a place, see him in a place where he's at peace. And I think he's getting there. I just don't think he's completely there.
Hey, maybe this does it. That's where, like, I think a guy like I don't want to bring up Kobe, but Kobe was going to be an ambassador. He was going to be a mentor for the game for years to come. He was going to be a Bill Russell type, and he was going to be there for the history of the game. And Jordan's not really. He's not. I mean, he doesn't have to be, but he's not that approachable. He doesn't always have his arm around the player.
Mm-hmm.
He's not always reaching out. So I don't know. And I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope, I would love nothing more than to see, like, 70-year-old Jordan, on the court at the NBA All-Star game, taking some awards and talking to some kid that just came out of high school. I hope that's the way it goes. I just don't know if he's cut that way. Maybe
not. Probably not. But I mean,
hey, he's already said it. He's already told everybody. It's like, it's me. Like, that's fine.
So that was episode 7. Let's get into 8, right? So
I apologize, man.
Coming up on the hour mark. I don't want to go too heavy into it, but there's definitely some good stuff in episode 8. So let's talk about B.J. Armstrong and LaBradford Smith.
You just said it. Here's what everybody said. Who?
Yeah.
BJ always had a chip on his shoulder, man. There's a guy that, and I like BJ. I like most human beings, and I think you touched on it earlier. Maybe that's a guy that, I don't want to say couldn't take it. Like, he didn't necessarily have to take it, but maybe he's not mentally made the way like a Steve Kerr is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what separated him, or John Paxton. There's obviously just something that he didn't agree with, and he took some money and he went and had a good time. But I'm never a fan of these guys that go to another team and then like glare at their old team. I'm like, wait a minute. The only reason you got the new team
exactly
is because of the old team.
Yeah, you made your name. Unless you were like Tracy McGrady, you were okay in Toronto, and then you went to Orlando and became Tracy McGrady. It was one of those.
That's fair. I get you're right. I guess there's guys that's holding you back, but BJ is a case that, he got everything he had because of him and Horace Grant both. And Horace Grant deserved it. Horace Grant totally deserved it.
Well, Horace Grant got released. It wasn't a matter of looking for
right.
He got released.
Yeah, so, he was a good player after that in Orlando. Actually, that Orlando team, man, that was a great team. I thought that team was going to be something.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity. But hey, $120 million talks in LA. So Shaq
doesn't it though?
So I think I'm gonna talk about Mike as a master self-motivator, right?
Yeah.
he took that 98 Hornets series and basically made it to where, you're not going to talk about B.J. Armstrong anymore. And to be honest with you, I don't think anybody's talked about B.J. Armstrong since that game.
No, you're right. That ended it.
And then the whole thing with LaBradford Smith, where they did the comparison where it was like, this guy talked junk, and then and it got under Mike's skin because Mike was embarrassed that they shouldn't even have lost to Charlotte.
Right.
And so they lose to the crappy Bullets with LaBradford Smith dropping 37 on them. And then they did the next night, he's like, you know what? I got something for you. And he just makes up this story about LaBradford Smith. I'm like, oh, nice game, Mike. Good game.
You're exactly right about making it. It's all
it's whatever you have to do to channel, some kind of aggression or get you going, especially the Bullets. Like nobody cares about that, and whatever it took to get himself up and going to drop that 47. I mean,
he's like, I'm gonna top him in a half. I think,
and he did
in a half. But that's the stuff that Mike did. Like everybody has these classic stories. Like when later he tells the one about George Karl. He's like, oh, that's all I needed. Man, it wouldn't have mattered. Like if George Karl didn't walk by, he'd be telling the story now. Like, the waiter walked by and said, go Sonics. Like he would just,
he had on emerald green socks, and I ain't like that. Yeah,
whatever he picked, like he just like, oh, okay, that's what I'm playing against tonight. Like it's not real stuff. Like he was going to do that to LaBradford Smith, that's Mike though.
It just so worked that it was a back-to-back. And if LaBradford Smith had a score like 12 or something like that, it probably would have never happened.
Oh, right.
He dropped 37 on Mike. That's what pissed him off, and I think he was embarrassed.
Can you imagine a time in the NBA to where they would let your star player like go out just and screw around like that? Like Mike would just take a game every now and then and be like, nah, we're not running the offense tonight. Like I'm putting up 80.
Oh, no, we see it all the time with Golden State. They just go just launch.
That's a whole different animal right there.
They just go and launch.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Like, go ahead, man.
So let me get to the famous facts, right? I'm back. The famous, and I think Mike had enough of just watching. And, and I knew there was probably conversations. He was working out with BJ Armstrong.
Oh yeah.
And I think he missed it. I think, baseball's, it scratched that itch. I think he honored what his father wanted for him, but he was happy on the court, man. And for him to come back, I remember, man, when it came out, it was my freshman year of high school. And when that came out, like nobody could believe it. Like, what?
Right.
Like, when is he coming back? And sure enough, it was like a matter of days and he was back. And I was living in, like I said, in Japan. And we stayed up late just to watch it. And it was just crazy, man. Like,
isn't that amazing to think about what that was like?
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was the biggest event. Like, because I remember when he came back, they put they put all these games on it was probably TBS and TNT back then. Yeah, it didn't matter. And I personally love the 45. I mean, I didn't care if he didn't keep it. I love the 45. That's what me and my son say. He's 23 this year, and I'm going to be 45. So we're both in our Jordan year.
That's dope. Yeah, you got to take a picture.
Yeah, I'm out of him unless he comes back. But, no, that's truly just a great day. And then when that double nickel we put up in the New York Knicks, game that night, and then had the game winning assist, it was awesome, man. And I don't know, he wasn't in the shape he needed to be in, but I really thought they had a chance that year.
Oh yeah. And he came back and had I think it was like 19 or maybe it was like 19 or something like that against the Pacers his first game.
Yeah.
And then he turns around 5 games later, drops a double nickel in the Garden.
Yeah, and he had a game winner mixed in there somewhere.
And once again, the music, "Down with the King" by Run DMC and Pete Rock.
Right, it's perfect.
Oh, man, it was like the King was coming back. He was coming back, and granted, he wasn't he wasn't there yet. You know, they made it to the it wasn't the conference finals, it was the second round they played Orlando, right? And you know, it was the return of 23 after Nick Anderson said 45 and 23, and that was all he needed to hear. And you know, and it was just crazy that even there, you know, it wasn't enough. And you know, you could see the disappointment in his face.
Yep.
He couldn't will them like, and it was a new guard coming in, right? It was the new guard, and those guys, you know, they were coming, and they weren't backing down. Like they were actually trying to, you know, make their names off mic. And
look at who they were playing, man. That Orlando team was like, you know, it's easy to look back now and you know that Penny Hardaway was going to get injured, but at that moment, he was the next Jordan. Like, you know, that there was always a next Jordan. You had Grant Hill coming soon. Guys like that, like they were supposed to take over, and you know, ran Rupshot for another 3. He was a different player after that. They haven't really got into his playing style, which is fine. He was a really different player when he came back, as far as that turnaround jumper he perfected. You know, I think that's all he did while he was playing basketball, was that turnaround jumper.
He wasn't the rim runner anymore, or not the rim runner, but the high flyer.
Nope.
That high flyer Mike was gone. It was the turnaround jumper. It was footwork. Was all that stuff, and you got a complete package.
His handwork, he was a little bigger. His defense, like he was a total different. He really, like, he was a lot different. Like when you see the highlights and the, you know, the Run DMC, it all looks the same, but it's not that he couldn't dunk. I mean, it was a total different.
Beat up your body to do that. So, and I think that was the beginning. That right there was the beginning of Legend Mike. Like you already had, you know, the best player of all time, Mike, but Legend Mike was coming. And yeah, history is not the same if he doesn't come back. And do that, or if he fails, which you know, it's easy to say that now, but you're 100% right. If he quits after 9 years, right now you would be talking about several guys that had a better career than him if he doesn't come back. It's crazy to think that, right? Yeah.
Like how is that even possible?
Yeah. So Horace Grant finally got his, you know, he got the hero's carry off, you know, on the shoulders, the double figure. He was doing all that, and I was happy for Horace Grant.
Me too.
You know, you lived in Mike and Scottie's shadow, and you actually led a team, and that was a young Shaquille O'Neal and a young Penny.
Oh, that was all. Yeah, you're right. Horace and Nick Anderson,
and Nick Anderson and
Dennis Scott. Dennis Scott, was it D3? Yeah.
Donald Royal. They had Donald Royal on the squad. I saw
Royal could go a little bit, man. So, I mean, honestly, that was a good squad. I really thought that they were going to be. I really thought that they could have. You know, then with Penny really was the. You know, it's too bad how that went, man, because that Hardaway was a great player.
But you look at it and you fast forward 15 years, or not 15 years later, but you had the same thing with Shaq and Kobe. You know, it was the alpha, and whatever it was, you know, with Shaq, it's like he didn't want to be number 2, and the same thing with Shaq, he didn't want to be number 2. It's like you got transcendent players right there as your sidekick, or 1A, 1B, however you want to look at it.
Yeah,
but I think Shaq for a lot of that stuff, man. I think Shaq was kind of immature.
I think Kobe kind of proved that after Shaq left, right? Yeah. Am I wrong? He kind of proved that Kobe came out of that, you know. By the time it was all said and done, like I think we all had a way different opinion of him.
Yeah. But back to the Bulls. We could talk about that another time.
Sorry, bro.
So they lost, right? He talks to Tim Grover, his personal trainer, and you know he was like, "Hey, I'm heading out. When are we gonna see each other again?" He goes, "I'll see you tomorrow."
Yeah,
Mike was ready to go back to the lab the next day, next day, and. You know, when people talk about Mike and his dedication to the game, you can see, like, even they feel it. And this dude started tearing up when he was talking about how dedicated to his craft and the game that Mike was. And you think about it, you know, we knock him, whether you're a fan or me not really being a fan, you know, of Mike, but you can't fault the man. He gave you what you expected from him. You know, you don't want to see somebody going out there giving a half-ass effort. You want to see somebody going out there giving you greatness, giving you their best night in and night out. That's what you pay for. And he said, if Mike looked at it like, if you're going to sit here and watch me for 3 hours, give me 3 hours of your time. I have an obligation to give you my best. And I mean, and that hit me. I was like, 100% right. 100% right. And you know,
he didn't think he was above the game. He just happened to be that good.
Yeah.
That was a weird thing about him. Like, like I've said it a million times, guys that came after Michael Jordan, it's different because there was Michael Jordan.
Right.
Like LeBron James always been compared. Kobe is always being compared. Whoever comes along next is always going to be compared.
Yeah.
Because there is a Michael Jordan. As to where Michael Jordan said, like he didn't get compared to people because he wasn't like Magic, he wasn't like Bird, he wasn't like any of those cats. Like so it made it easier for him also. But it was just a unique situation to where he was the most famous person on the planet and still playing.
Yeah.
So weird. And the closest thing we've seen is obviously LeBron. I mean, he's in a different stratosphere as far as fame, but he's 17 years in the league.
Right.
Now there's so much more coverage. I mean, it was just a different time, man.
It was, man. It was simple, but it was just a good time, and
God, it was wonderful.
You have somebody, social media, spilling the beans on everything, telling everything, and just trying to find dirt and
Jordan would have had Twitter fingers like you wouldn't believe, man. Like he would have been a savage on social media. Like
I don't know. I don't think he would have gotten involved in it.
Really?
And with the personality he has now, I don't think he would do that unless
because he doesn't do it now.
No, he doesn't do it now.
Yeah, that's a good point. He could.
Yeah. So we're getting back. So he's back in the gym, rebuilding his body to be a basketball player, not a baseball player anymore. And he was filming Space Jam at the same time, which is a terrible movie, but it was just cool that Michael Jordan was in it.
I don't know if we're friends anymore. I love that movie.
Man, that movie sucks, dude. Space Jam is terrible, and LeBron's Space Jam is gonna suck too. I'm not even excited. I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch the shit out of it.
Yeah. But it's not a good movie. So, how crazy was? Go ahead.
If nothing else, Space Jam, that opening sequence. Like the music montage. It's worth it. Like 3 minutes. Like I sat in a movie theater and watched that, and I can remember because he had just won a championship. And I sat in a movie theater, and I mean, I had chills.
Yeah,
because mind you, it wasn't a time where I could go on YouTube and just watch Jordan highlights.
Yeah,
I had to watch them when they popped up. So when that happened, I could take all the mic I could get, man. I'm telling you, I just watched Space Jam not that long ago. I love it.
Yeah, my kids watched it and they liked it. So it was it's
good for them.
It's good. It's just not
terrible. It's a terrible movie, but it's good. Yeah, you're right.
Patrick Ewing was a terrible actor. He all wooden and he was terrible.
Yeah, those guys didn't come off well at all. They should have had more Barkley in that movie. In all honesty, they could have made that would have been awesome.
So how crazy was it that Warner Brothers and Joe Pytka, the director, right? They made sure he had a gym built within a day. That right there tells me even they want you to be great again. This is like we're gonna. Yeah, they want you back. So then we're gonna build all around this $1 million.
That was cool, man.
Yeah, I'm like, he said, I had a gym and weights, and they gave me 2 hours to work out, and I'm like, they want you back to who you are. That's exactly what it was.
I love the footage of like the pickup games and stuff because you get to see that's real NBA. Like that's basketball. Like these guys love basketball, and this is what they do. I'm surprised they haven't touched on. There's that the famous they played in the summer in Chicago. It's down where Oprah's studio was, and those guys played there all summer. Pickup games, like guys making. You would never see that now, and it's not their fault.
No, they do that. They do it in New York. They go to New York, and there's a team that they play in New York. Yep,
that's awesome. Yeah. That's basketball, man. That's what I love so much.
That was the legend where Hoodie Mello was coming out, right? When Carmelo started rocking the hoodie, and he was killing it. And they do the summer game, the pickup games there. So Mike was. I don't think he was probably the first, but he was probably the first to make it popular with popular players. But secondary, motive was he was scouting all those dudes. Dennis Rodman was still a Spur at the time.
That's true. Holy shit.
So he was scouting all those dudes. Jawan Howard was with the Wizards.
Jawan Howard,
bullets at the time, and you were watching all these guys that he would have to go through or potentially face. And it was like, all right, let me see who I can get. And he was scouting those guys, and they just thought it was cool just to come and hang out with Mike.
Yeah.
They like, are you idiot? Like he's watching you. So mastermind again.
You're right. He was always a step ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And that was cool. And I remember that summer, we all knew, every one of us were like, they're going to blow everybody. Like, there was no question about them winning the championship in '96. None. It was if they would lose, in all honesty. Like, I remember it like it was yesterday.
Dude, that was the only year I ever rooted for Michael Jordan because I wanted him to make it right.
Yep.
And then not only to shut people up, but to do it for his dad and just put basically everything back right in the world, you know.
Right. And it would, oh God, that was so much fun. I bet I watched 60 games that year total. Like,
yeah, I caught what I could. Like I said, I caught what I could.
He was, if people would, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, just if fans that didn't get a chance to watch that would just go back and just watch a game, just pick a game. I don't care, game 47 of that season and watch it. You would be surprised at how good how amazing he was every game. Like it's mesmerizing. Yeah. It really was.
And they were in sync. And it's like and he said, yeah, you know, we knew about Dennis Rodman. He was a little bit of a character. But he said, hey, what's up, Kyle? One of the original Marauders right here. Kyle.
Hey, what's up, Kyle? Nice to meet you.
So, yeah, man, and just watching it, and it was just perfect. When they threw that KRS-One, that step into a wall.
Oh, man.
It was on. It was just like, it was just perfect. And they were flowing, and it was just beautiful basketball to watch. And
it was.
Around tossing behind their back and cats dunking and stuff, and it was just nuts.
And that's the thing, Curtis. It wasn't fake. That's how they played the game. I know highlights make things look a certain way, but that's how like their games were. It was amazing to watch.
Yep.
It was a different game, but it's not bad or worse. It was different in the way they played it, the defense, the rebounding. That's how they played it. I mean, it was just crazy. There'd be a game like Kukoc would have games to where like he's the greatest player in the world. Pippen was just amazing. Like one of the just true great teammates of all time. Like what he did for that team, the way the
sacrifice. He sacrificed a lot. Yeah, and he probably could have been gone sooner. He probably could, but he's like,
oh yeah. He'd be a way richer man now. I kind of feel a little bit bad for him coming out of it, but man, he was so good. Just all those guys, man. It was just. God, I'm telling you, like like Randy Brown and guys like that, man, they had their moments. Like, it was amazing. Ron Harper, I can't say enough about it. They got Ron Harper,
unsung hero. Ron Harper, yep, he was unsung hero too, and you know he was balling, and it was just a perfect collection. Everybody filled the lane perfect.
It was awesome season, man.
And when they met up with Orlando again and swept those cats,
yeah,
man. So let me ask you this: so 72-10 Bulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you got the 73-9 Warriors. Records aside, who's the best? Who's the greatest team of all time?
It's the Bulls, and I even did a show on it. If anybody wants to go check out Jeff Needs Help, I did a show on this. And the reason why the Warriors didn't finish it, but the Warriors, and I'm not saying the Warriors are bad, but that Bulls team, first of all, the 10 they lost were, I don't want to say like throwaway games, but they honestly could have, won those games. They lost one to like Vancouver and shit. Yeah. The playoffs they rolled through. I know they had the blemishes against, Seattle, but they rolled through those playoffs.
Yep.
And it was they could shut a team down. And the Warriors, they're so different. It's hard to explain. And they're close. That Warriors team, when they were hot, are unbeatable. Like nobody could beat that team. That Warriors.
Yeah. Oh no, they would find a new way to beat you.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll put it this way: they're without a doubt the best offense that we've ever seen on NBA floor.
I give you that, but best overall talent, with defense to boot, I would give it to them.
Yeah, but I think I still that is 96 Bulls, and I truly mean that, and it's close, but I do think it was the Bulls. Man, you just have to watch them. Like I watched the games. That's the only reason I can say that. I really did watch the games there. Oh my God. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Kyle. That defense was the hands. It was the hands, man. Like they were everywhere. Like guys hated to dribble against that team.
Yeah.
They
became the bullies. They became like a classier version of the Pistons. They would beat
you know what?
Came down low.
Low key, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, it was just their handwork. They were long and tall, and the rebounding with Rodman. I'll tell you what, if they play head to head,
Draymond.
Thank you. Robin would have had Draymond out of that series game 1. So
I think so too. So let's talk about the finals that year. Seattle. I remember I was it was summer. Like summer had just started, and I was still in Okinawa when the finals were going, and I was watching it, and I was kind of pulling in a sense. I just wanted it to be a good series, right? Like I liked Sean Kemp at the time.
And I liked that Seattle team.
Here's another comment from Kyle. Bulls were
yeah.
down, not to mention the size is too much.
He's right there length. I think Pippen could have guarded Clay, which would Pippen would have been the difference in that series. Like, and that's what he's touching on.
Yep.
Everybody knows Jordan, like, but I mean, because we saw what LeBron did, to him, like when he really, like, he on defense. So imagine having Pippen and Jordan out there. You got. So I'll never back off 96 of the best.
Me neither. And like I said, I'm a Chuck fan, but I got to give credit where credit is due. That is the best team of all time.
It was, and oh man, it was something to see.
Yeah. So like I was saying, so the finals, right? So you talked about the snub and the motivation, and Ahmad Rashad, he's like, man, why'd you say that? Like
I love Ahmad, by the way, man. Yeah. Just to hear his voice.
Yeah. And he was talking about it, and it's like Jordan was gonna they jumped out to a 3-0 lead to begin with, right? And I think just to make it interesting, they kind of took their foot off the pedal a little bit and let see
backed off.
And what the hell was George Karl doing, right? What the hell was this dude doing? Like, you're talking about being out coached and not having a game plan. You got the defensive player of the year on your squad, all NBA defense, and you won't put him on Jordan? Like, what the hell were you thinking?
They did the old, well, we know he's going to get his points, so let him get his points, and then we'll shut down somebody else. But when it's the greatest scorer in the history of basketball, like, no, you don't do that
on a record pace.
Yeah, the same now. Like, you'd put Gary Payton on, whatever, Steph Curry now or somebody like that. Like, you go with that Seattle team was pretty good, man. Like,
very good. He
was real good. That cat that played, was it Hersey Hawkins?
Yep.
That dude could really shoot. Like, he gave Jordan problems because Jordan didn't love to guard the perimeter. I'm not saying like he's bad at it, but because it wasn't a perimeter game back then. Jordan would rather get you down low and
work you down low.
Yeah, he wanted you in the post or mid range. He did not love guarding the perimeter because he liked to rebound. He wanted to be part of the game. And Hawkins gave him trouble in that. They're outside. If a team would have committed to the outside shot, who knows? What? But that was a different time.
Nate McMillan gave him problems too.
Yeah, McMillan. Oh shit! I might even be thinking about Nate, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. So here's a question from Kyle: could Shawn Kemp create on his own besides lobs? No, I don't.
He wasn't great with the ball on the floor, Kyle.
And you saw that when he got to Cleveland, and he got his Pippen moment, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, it was bad. Shawn was an athletic dude. He would have been. He was like a Durant, but if you never got better, he didn't. His game didn't evolve. And there's where you go. Like, Gary Payton was the obvious leader of that team, but he was his own player. He didn't rub off on Kemp. Like, he didn't become. If
he didn't grow his game, like you said it, he never grew his game.
If Kemp goes to like.
He made an all-star game. He made an all-star game in Cleveland. I know he made the all-star in Cleveland, but it's Cleveland. Like, it's like,
Yeah, he was terrible there. He just, he wasn't a complete player. He was a good player.
But his Seattle days, man. Shoot.
Oh no, it was a blast. And he was he's one of the first guys at that size to do that. I give him credit for that. Like, he was in a dunk competition at his size, but he just didn't evolve his game. You know what I mean? Like, he could have. I don't know. You just, like, that's the difference in these guys. If you work on your game or if you don't. I'm not saying he was lazy or anything like that, but obviously his game didn't evolve through the years, and it showed up, as he got fat.
He got real fat.
Sorry, Shawn, if you're out there, buddy. I mean, I hope you're doing good, but you got big, boy.
He knew what was up. So,
yeah.
So, you get down to, game 6. Mike never got to a game 7. Never needed it, right?
Yeah.
Father's Day clincher, man. I remember watching that game. I sat and watched that whole game for sure. And I was glad he won. And
your point, that's a great point by Kyle right there. I'm sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but I try to read these. That's a smart comment right there. I hope he's being serious.
No. He was serious. And he threw up another good point. Me and Kyle talk all the time.
Yeah, I can tell he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. So he said he's glad Vince's game evolved. Yes. Yep. Because he would have wound up like Shawn. Yep.
Yeah, we touched a little bit on this on my show. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, this one's tough, man.
So, Father's Day clincher, man. It was good to see it, because even though you knew how this was going to turn out, it was just good to see it. It turn out that way again. Just watch it over again. And like I said, the 14-year-old version of me versus the 40-year-old version of me, you see it in a totally different it's totally different now.
Yeah, I see it a lot different. My dad passed away like two years ago or so, and just like you're right, man. As you get older, you see things different. And I'm a father now, you know. Life is 100% different than it was when I saw it the first time. A couple things they did on the show, like somebody brought it up today on Twitter. That's the first time we ever actually heard Michael crying.
Oh yeah,
we've always seen the shot on the floor.
Yep.
And that's when I try to tell everybody, like, everybody thinks Mike was fake and full of shit about this, but nothing seemed fake about that.
No.
Like, I don't understand. Like, no, that was real. Like, yeah, that the sounds that he were making, man. Like, I felt like, man,
it was just gut wrenching, man.
This is his moment.
Even when Ahmad Rashad interviewed him, right when they had won, he was talking about his dad, man, and it's just it didn't sound like Mike. It sounded like Mike from like when he first came to the league, and he was still humble, and he was just and I was like, he had been humbled by that whole ordeal. The whole ordeal humbled him.
If anything, that horrible story is underplayed. Like when we really look back at it now, I'm like, whoa. Like when I rewatched all that, I'm like, I forgot. Like that is like so tragic. Like, you know what I mean? And that's, we talked about this earlier. All the money in the world, man, doesn't change the realism.
Exactly. And you're sitting there, and I'm telling you, when they showed that part, and then they showed him in the locker room, I was bawling, dude. I was like, man, that hurts. It's like, you hurt for him. You know, you're glad he righted, but he would probably take everything he had to get his father back.
Well, because think about it, man. We're older than him now. Like, we did it. Like when I'm young. Obviously, when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah. And now that I'm older, I'm like, to me, that's like watching a kid go through that. I'm like, man, that's a young guy. He's in his early 30s going through this. Like, that was, I'm saying, I appreciate Jordan for, talking about it, allowing the editing, the film, just everything about it's just, for them to share that with us, that's special, man. Like that's a big deal. That's a real moment in life, and that's a big deal. But that was an amazing night. That was I can remember, I remember it.
Yeah. So we got coming up, we got the last 2 episodes, man. Like I'm bummed out already. I'm like, I kind of don't want to watch them because if I don't watch it, it'll mean that it never ended for me. So
I agree. It's gonna feel like he's retiring again, man. I did this in ¡98, and now I'm like, I can't believe I got to go through this again. I mean, I was even upset when he left the Wizards, and those years were meaningless. But
but it was good to see him even in that capacity, because he was still doing like stuff you had never seen before.
Yep,
pinning people's stuff onto the backboard with 2 hands, and it's just the legs gave out. But so Kyle is a huge Reggie Miller fan.
Hey, I want to say something to Kyle and see if he agrees real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I think Reggie Miller in today's NBA would be one of the top players in the NBA. I think today's NBA suits him. Like if he played for Golden State or somebody, it would be over. I've said that. That's the one guy that I think translates. He was before his time. That dude was I respect the shit out of Reggie Miller.
I think he would have been not as big as Durant, but the same type of player. I think. Yeah.
No, I don't argue. I don't think we're understating it. Reggie Miller was a good ball player.
Yeah,
like really, really good.
He was tough. And if you get him an open lane, he would dunk on him.
He was awkward looking, but man, he was tough. He could play some those Pacers, that Pacer team was really good. I was scared. Like that was the hardest series I ever watched. One of the hardest I've ever watched in sports. Like, because I wanted that last one so bad. I knew it was going to be the last year. Like, that's what's funny about this documentary. Like, we did know. Like, I knew that this was the last year of this together. So this isn't. They're telling us now. We knew then, so we knew what we were getting. And that Pacer series, man. Like, oh man, I hated some of those guys. So bad. Like, oh
yeah.
Freaking. They had. Man, oh man, even Rick Smith. I didn't even like him for a minute.
Or the Davis boys, Dale.
Davis.
Yep,
dude. I despise those guys.
They were a new version of the Pistons. They played grimy ball.
Oh,
yeah, and that's what it was. So Reggie said he was going to be the one to retire Jordan. So for those of you who haven't seen it, tune in next week. For those,
I don't know how it's going to end.
oh my goodness. So
yes, he did give Jordan fits.
So that's the wrap up, right? So Man, it's just a lot. Like I wasn't expecting to go this long, but it's always.
I'm sorry, man. That's my bad.
No. But it's always fun to talk about it. So I appreciate you coming on. What are your final thoughts and comments? Like, what are you looking forward to with this final wrap up?
So I know next week. I mean, they got two nights to show all this. There's so much to talk about in the 2 Utah Jazz series. It's astronomical.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciating the way that Pacers game, that one of the greatest game sevens of all time, one of the biggest game sevens of all time. It's still actually like, okay, tell you how good this game is. I still like sometimes wake up thinking like, I don't know how it's going to end. Like it's one of those games. You know what I mean? Like as a sports fan, you're like, oh man, I don't know if they're going to pull this one out or not.
Yeah, and I think if the Pacers had to beat the Bulls, they would have won the championship that year.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think they would have won.
Yeah, I really thought they would get one. I thought them or the Knicks would get one of those championships. But I love Houston, so I love the Akeem Olajuwon.
I'm glad Dream got his, but
I one of the greatest, because he didn't tell anybody, one of the greatest players that ever like walked the earth that people don't. I don't. When I say don't talk about enough, like I'm not one of these guys who are like you need like he's just not talked about a lot because of how he lived his life.
To me, in my opinion, he's the greatest center of all time. That's just my opinion.
I go back and forth on this in my own mind because nobody really asked me, but I do this all the time and debate it. And he is mine just because of the skill set. But man, I remember watching Abdul-Jabbar, but we won't go down that road. I'm looking forward to the end. I'm looking forward to the shot. I'm looking forward to the flu games. I'm looking forward. I don't know. There's going to be a player. They seem to highlight a player every episode, like a different, player. So I don't know who it's going to be. So I'm pretty excited.
Russell. I think they'll get Russell or Malone in there to talk a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. So, all the footage, the better, man. They're going to go. They'll get some of that Reggie Miller. I bet they'll do quite a bit on Reggie Miller. They got to.
Yeah, like Spike Lee too. You probably get Spike Lee in there a little bit because
please. That is so much fun. That is. Oh my God. Yeah, Stockton and the Stockton Malone story is huge. Like that's gonna be a big part of it, Jerry.
Yeah, I'd like to see Stockton. I ain't seen John Stockton in forever, so yeah.
Last time I saw him was when his kid was playing up there.
Exactly. So for me, what I'm looking forward to, I'm definitely looking forward to the series with Indiana because that's the furthest they've ever been pushed without losing. So that's the furthest they've been pushed. I'm looking for the flu game. I'm looking more for because it's tying everything together for the last season, like the two ends meeting, right? So
exactly, and they're getting closer.
Yeah, so I'm looking to see the mindset of the team going into to the finals that first time they played, right? Yeah. With Karl Malone winning the MVP and all that stuff.
That's gonna be a huge story.
And maybe that might be a motivation, right, for Mike or something, right?
It might come up.
Things, So I'm just looking to see what is it that pushed these guys to get one more, to get that last one, before you call it a wrap. So, and just to hear the music, I'm waiting to see how are they going to throw the soundtrack together.
They got to put it out. They got to put it out there.
And that's what I'm waiting to hear. Like, how are they going to throw music into another really dope sequence? So
I can't wait. Yeah, because we're gonna be getting into like you're talking late '90s, so you're gonna be getting into like
some DMX.
Yeah, that'd be nice. You got to get some of the definitely West Coast stuff is good.
Yep, you got some West Coast.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any Utah hip hop. I don't know. I don't know. They may have to bring like Hank Williams out or something. Series.
The John Stockton and the boys.
No offense, Utah. You might have a great music scene. I have no idea. I can't name a Utah rapper. I really can't. That's on me. On me.
I don't think anybody can really, to be honest with you. So, all right. So that's the wrap up, right? So, hey, I appreciate you jumping on, man. I know you're a man in high demand. So it was a busy night. That's on me. I should have been here on time. That's all right. So you're always welcome back, man. So
I appreciate it.
We jumped into it. We talked about all the stuff in episode 7. The unfortunate passing of his father. Mike being tired. It was just a matter of time of him. Just wanting to hang it up. The baseball and all that stuff, and just everything that led to him quitting. And then we go into episode 8. I go back through my notes. yeah, go back to the notes where, he comes back, makes the world in the NBA all right again, gives us all those good feelings back again, and we're cheering for Jordan again, and he gets his revenge, and and he closes that chapter. I wouldn't necessarily say closes it, but he pays tribute to his father by winning the championship on Father's Day.
So. Hey, I think he turned the page, and another quick note that it's never really brought up, and it may not need to be, but Mike was big on he won 3 and none of the other guys had. Let's not forget that Houston had just won 1, and then Houston was looking good again. Who knows if that factored into it at all? No, I need to come back. Like, can't have Houston winning 3 or 4 in a row. So I don't know.
He said, who did Houston lose to the year he came back?
I don't know who I think the year he came back, they didn't. They won the championship the year he came back.
The year he came back, they won. So
96, I don't know. Probably Seattle.
The Utah or San Antonio, I think. It was Utah or San Antonio they lost.
Yeah, I think it was. And then I think Seattle might have beat Utah. That's just out of the top of my head. Well, you know what? Hey, we'll find out Sunday.
That's right. Tune in, fellow Marauders. So yeah. So
Onyx, Onyx.
So here we go. So any shout outs, anything you want to put out there?
Oh no, man. Just glad to be here. Make sure you guys follow everything that Curtis and the Culture Marauders are doing. I'm Jeff Needs Help. Go to Facebook. I'm everywhere. I'm out there. I'm an open book. Just did a great show earlier with Chris LeBron from the Off the Ball podcast. Super, super smart sports guy. So I was happy to be on there. I'm happy to be on this show anytime. It's great. And, I'll do the pre-show Sunday. If anybody wants to stop by, do a live Last Dance pre-show. If you want to get warmed up for it, we just kind of BS about we'll rehash a lot of what we did here, but you can't get enough of it, right?
There it is. And you got to get your last fill because it's the last week. So,
oh man,
but definitely. So, my shout outs, of course, is always to the listeners and now the viewers out there, man. Everybody that takes the time, the hour and a half today to pop in and see what's happening with us and ask some really good questions and some comments. Everybody that supports the show, everybody that that likes and follows and all that stuff. The homies out there, you, Jeff, Corey out there with the Out of Bounds podcast, Nolan with the Beerlosophy podcast, Kyle, one of the who jumps on there. This is a lot of fun, and just get everybody on there and just hear everybody's different mindsets and stuff like that.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. Thanks for participating, everybody. We love it. Thanks, Kyle, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. And
so everybody knows, this means a lot when we do this. It's a blast. It's awesome, man.
Yep, definitely. And I also, as always, I like to give a shout out to and especially Linda Sue out there for providing some comments, some content. So we definitely appreciate you. One of the few female voices that pop on the show to comment. So definitely looking forward to seeing what you provide for us next week when you pop back on, and we'll definitely. So but definitely I want to give a shout out to the teachers out there, the parents doing the thing at home. As always, we're getting towards the end of the year. Keep rocking, keep pushing. Let's get these kids done, and we get a little bit of a summer break. Also to the military members out there, still grinding, still deploying, still doing the mission and looking out for us, while our service workers and essential workers and healthcare workers here are all doing the job here, at home. So we appreciate, all the doctors, the nurses, the public health, the pharmacists, the emergency room, anybody and everybody, healthcare workers out there, as well as the essential workers, your grocery store stockers, your registered workers, all those people, all those folks out there, keeping it clean. The folks that wipe down my cart when I walk in there, man, like you don't realize how important that is, until that person ain't there and you're looking for some wet naps or something like that. So I appreciate you. The Culture Marauders appreciate you, each and everything you do. And, allow you guys do what you do to allow us to do what we do. So, it's always, Culture Marauders, I got a new saying I'm going to try, it's one culture, one love, one blood. So, and that's nice. What it is. So, thank you. So, and with that being said, hey, Jeff, as always, we appreciate you, man. You're a fellow Marauder now. And with that,
that's awesome.
Peace.